40,000.
Welcome to Meldon Law and Friends. I'm Jeffrey Meldon, your host for Meldon Law and Friends, founder and attorney at Meldon Law. Thank you very much for watching and listening. We're very excited about our show this week. We have famous sports writer and sports commentator Pat Dooley with us today. And we're going to have a great show. This is one you want to stay tuned and listen to and tell your friends about. Before we get going, we're going to go over a few things going on in the community. We've got the Tom Petty weekend coming up starting October 20th through October 22nd. That's Friday, October 20th through October 22nd. And the show is going to be phenomenal. I've got the card here. Some of the feature acts include Shovels and Rope. Now, that's a group I had not heard of, but when I saw they got booked about 2 months ago, I went and started listening to them on Spotify, and they are awesome. You should really check them out. I think they're going to be playing Saturday night. Another favorite of mine is Jake Thistle. Jake Thistle's 19 years old now and has been, in my mind, a child prodigy. He writes his own music, he sings, plays his own instruments, guitar, the piano. So Jake is really the embodiment of the Tom Petty spirit. If they were going to bring back Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and form a new group, Jake Thistle would be my vote for the Tom Petty of the group. He's that good. A number of other great shows. The Lions of Jah. They're a reggae band from Jacksonville, Florida, and they're going to do a whole Tom Petty set in reggae style. So I'm not sure how Won't Back Down is going to sound reggae style, but and I would make an attempt to sing it in reggae style. However, I want to protect the ears of our listeners. We have a lot of other really good acts coming to the event. It's at the Heartwood Sound Studios in Gainesville, Florida, and it is an amazing tribute to Tom Petty. Of course, Gainesville, Florida is Tom's hometown, and ever since he passed away, I believe it was October 2nd, 2017, the folks that love Tom's music have gotten together to pay tribute to his contribution, not only to worldwide music, but to Gainesville in particular. I regard Tom as the most famous musician that ever came out of the state of Florida, including Gloria Estefan or whoever else might be number two. I saw where somebody wanted to name all of A1A after Jimmy Buffett, down from the Keys all the way up to Jacksonville, Florida, and I think that'd be a great idea. Jimmy Buffett is from Alabama, although he adopted Florida in his adult life. So that's something going on. Now, we have free tickets for those of you that want to go to the Tom Petty Festival. All you have to do is go to our webpage, meldonlaw.com, enter to win, and we're going to give away a package of 4 tickets for the Tom Petty Festival. It starts Friday evening around 5 o'clock and goes all the way through Sunday around 9 o'clock in the evening. Don't miss it. Go online, tompettyweekend.com, and you will see the lineup. You'll see the acts, when they're playing, what's going on. I'm going to be there all weekend. Come and join us. I will tell you, Saturday night is going to be a really great show starting about 5 o'clock. The acts are going to be the top notch. So come and join us. Support live music. I've been on a little bit of a rant this week about trying to get people to support live music. Yeah, it's comfortable, and we have all our music apps, Spotify and Pandora, and we can get whatever music we want pretty easily now. However, the musicians don't really make that much money from their music. They make money from performing. And I heard recently someone tell a new act that they should perform as many clubs as they could rather than focus in on putting out a perfect album. And the reason is because you build your base in the music business now through performance. So we've got great performances, top-notch professional artists coming to Gainesville to celebrate Tom Petty's birthday. I know Tom's daughter Adria is going to be in town, along with others from the Tom Petty team, tompetty.com. So let's have a good time. Go out there, support the arts, support live music, because all of us have our favorite concerts that we remember at some of the greatest times that we've ever had, and I can assure you this will be one of them. As a matter of fact, I'm giving my money back guarantee. If anybody buys a ticket for the Tom Petty Festival and doesn't like it and wants their money back, just call me at Meldon Law and I will personally refund your ticket price. That's my Jeffrey Meldon warranty. Anyhow, a couple other things going on. That same weekend, Saturday morning, which does not conflict with the festival, my wife Patricia and I are co-chairing the Alzheimer's Walk. We're going to really have a great time. John Tull from Florida Sports Property is also co-chairing it with us. We've had some really good events leading up to it. Saturday morning, October 21st, is the Walk to End Alzheimer's. It's going to be at Trinity Methodist Church. It's out on 53rd Avenue in Gainesville. Just go to alz.org, ALZ for Alzheimer's.org /Gainesville. You'll get all the information. Join us. Registration's between 9 and 10. Show up, bring some friends. It's going to be a beautiful day out, and enjoy what's going on Saturday, October 21st, as well as learn about all the amazing advancements that are going on right now to either cure or to slow down early stage Alzheimer's. They came out with a drug this year, Lembeque, that is actually the first FDA approved drug and Medicare approved drug to help early onset Alzheimer's. It's very exciting that we're actually in the breakthrough of Alzheimer's. All of us have friends or family that have been affected by dementia, Alzheimer's, and it's time to really put the full court press on helping Alzheimer's National Organization. Our goal for Gainesville is to raise $140,000. You can go to alz.org /Gainesville if you'd like to donate. And if you want to come, we'd love to have you show up at the event. A couple other things. Meldon Law is supporting the Battle at the Beach for Aubrey Hope. Aubrey Hope is a young child who's battling a life-threatening form of cancer that's very rare, and we're trying to help Aubrey. The annual battle for it's called the Annual Battle at the Beach weightlifting competition held at Eaton's Beach in Weirfield, Florida. That's in Marion County on October 21st, and it's going to benefit Team Aubrey Hope. We at Meldon Law are donating to the cause along with a nice basket at the raffle there. So check it out, October 21st, Weirsdale. Go to the Battle of the Beach for Aubrey Hope. A couple other things. Saturday, October 21st, by the way, is a big weekend because the Gators never play the week before Georgia. So it's the off week. So everybody in the world schedules their event that week. We've got October 21st at Heritage Park in Williston hosting the International Food and Music Festival, and Meldon Law will be there 11 till 4 p.m. So check that out. And there's some other things coming up. Again, Meldon Law is proud to give back to the community and support these wonderful organizations that make all of our lives better in North Central Florida. So thank you very much for all of your support, and we look forward to continuing it. We're going to take a short break and be back with our special guest, Pat Dooley.
Jeffrey, what are you doing?
Well, I'm joining the band, of course. Since Meldon Law is the official law firm partner of the Florida Gators, I want to help.
Dad, we're litigators. Let's stick to helping people in the courtroom.
Well, can we still hang out and jam a little bit? At Meldon Law, we won't back down.
I was going down a one-way street and a girl that was driving her car T-boned me on my scooter. I ended up going for an MRI and discovering that I had 2 herniated discs. Coming to Cary allowed me to not have to worry about what doctor I was going to see or what physical therapist I had to go to. They say, these are the people we trust. You're going to have a great experience there, and I honestly did each time.
Call Meldon Law. Your consultation is absolutely free.
I was driving behind a lady, and very suddenly she moved out of the way. There was a log laying in the road, and when I hit my brakes, I went on top of the log. I had 2 herniated discs. I just haven't been the same since. Jeffrey Meldon fought for me all the way. Him and his team really went there for me. Throughout the whole lawsuit, he made sure that my bills was paid. It was never no whenever I called him and asked him for something.
Call Meldon Law right now.
And I was in an accident. Someone ran a red light and hit me, and I was hurt. You don't know where to turn. Luckily, I called Jeffrey. These big insurance companies, they don't want you to win. They truly don't. But Jeffrey and his firm and the people that work here, they just really fight for you. You call the law offices of Jeffrey Meldon because you're going to need help, and they will help you.
Call Meldon Law right now.
Hey, Sammy, look who's there. Say hi.
Hey!
You again!
Meldon Law, Jeffrey speaking.
Jeffrey!
Somebody else hit us
Yeah.
Here we go again.
Welcome back to Meldon Law and Friends. It's our great privilege today to have my good friend Pat Dooley on the show with us. Pat's been a sports writer for at least 45 years or so, and has a very, very interesting story to tell us about how he got started, what happened during the glory years, and what has happened recently as far as changes in the way sports writing is done and how the information is conveyed. Welcome to the show, Pat. How you doing?
Always a pleasure.
Good.
How are you doing?
I am doing good. It's a Monday, and the Gators won a game, so
They did. Yeah, and that's the thing. You got to take care of business in a game like that. But until they go on the road and win, I think we're still kind of waiting to see what this team is going to be, because that's where you are to be remembered for what you do in road games. You know, the great Marv Levy once told his Buffalo Bills, right? He goes, you know why Hitler lost World War II? Because he couldn't win on the road. Mm-hmm. And that he couldn't. You know, he wouldn't. He didn't win in France. We know that. So,
yeah.
But that's. I mean, winning on the road is what it's all about. And this, you know, I know that Billy Napier is going to change a few things up, but I don't know if it's going to make any difference. We'll see. We'll see how well they play.
You're dealing with 18 to 23-year-old young people, right?
Yep.
And some of them have different skill levels. Some of them get dinged up and have injuries. It's an organic group of people, and the idea that many sports fans have, where you can absolutely control this group of 70 or
Right.
80 or 90 young people and have them all perform at their highest level every week, this isn't reality.
You have a hard enough time just making sure everybody's in their rooms at 10 o'clock at bed check, you know, for a noon game, which they had a couple of weeks ago. You know, that is part of the problem with, especially when you're going to have a young team. You know, we talked about this a little bit last week with Kentucky had 17 seniors on their 2 deep. Florida has 1. And it's not just that they're older players, but they've had, in many cases, 5 years of weight training at a college level, which you don't get in high school. Okay, now you're a lot of these guys that are freshmen are really good players. I mean, Trey Wilson, I think, is going to be special for Florida, but they haven't built their bodies up yet, and it's going to take time. But when you're that young, sometimes that happens.
You know, it's interesting because I was thinking how short the prime career of a football player is. You come after high school, you come in, some of the great players start right away as freshmen. Mm-hmm. However, they haven't really filled out. You know how they'll say, oh, this guy's 6'2" and weighs, the quarterback is 6'2" and he weighs 195, but he's going to fill out, you know, and he's going to be 210 or 220 and muscular, and that makes a difference.
It does, and there are rare cases when you get a guy like a Tebow or a Percy, you know, who were already filled out when they got here, and they're still freaks. Tebow was setting weight room records when he was a freshman. So some guys are different than that, but certainly, you know, like a guy like Boardingham who had a big game on Saturday. You know, he needed a year of being a freshman, and then now as a redshirt freshman, he's already starting to fill into that role where physically he's big enough. He was a wide receiver, you know, in high school. So, but he's filling into that role. So it is hard. It's hard to get. And again, this is part of the whole plan of Billy Napier. You know, it's about nutrition. It's about taking care of your body. It's about doing all these things. And the reason we're asking you to do it, yeah, we want you to be better people. We want you to be better equipped to handle the next level if you get that far. But the main reason is you're not going to get better if you don't get physically better. You got to get physically better, and then you'll be a better player. And so I think that's part of the growing pains that they've got right now with a young team.
So what's your take on how Napier is doing so far?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. He isn't going anywhere, okay? So either you trust him or you don't. It is possible to be angry at your coach and still want him to be your coach. Those things aren't exclusive of each other. And look, nobody was happy after the Kentucky game. Nobody should be happy. And he wasn't happy. But I still think he's the right guy for the job. And certainly for Florida, isn't going to go pay a $32 million buyout to get rid of a guy who's doing things the right way. There are questions about some of the decisions he's made. Certainly The offensive coordinator situation is one where Gator fans are convinced they have all the answers, and they will show you exactly the plays you should be running. So that's why you need to get another offensive coordinator, a real offensive coordinator there. But I mean, not everybody has to give it up. Spurrier didn't give it up. Lincoln Riley doesn't give it up. Mike Norvell hasn't given it up. There's a lot of coaches who stay with it. But it is, you got to manage a lot. You got to manage NIL. You got to manage the portal and everything. You got to do speaking engagements that your assistants don't have to do. But that'll be something that they worry about once the season's over. You're not going to do it, obviously, in the middle of the year.
So, Pat, you've been around a long time. When did you first come to Gainesville?
Well, I was born here, actually. I was born here on 39th. Well, I wasn't actually physically born on 39th, but that's where we came back. I mean, once they had me at Alachua General, which no longer exists now. And the 39th Avenue was a dirt road.
I remember.
That's how long ago it was. That's how old I am. So, yeah, so we came back there, and then we were here till I was 10, moved to St. Augustine, and then went to St. John's. I was just over in Palatka the other day speaking to the group over there. Went to St. John's. First golf course I ever played was Palatka Golf Course when I was 13 years old. And then went to Florida, and then Jacksonville for about 10 years, 2 different jobs, and then came back here in 87.
So what did you study at Florida?
I studied journalism because I thought it might be easy. I really didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. I get mad at my daughter sometimes. I go, you need to get more focus on what you're trying to get out of life and this. I go, unlike me, like I was the worst at that. I was just like wandering aimlessly from party to party. And but I had some teachers that got a hold of me and straightened me out. And then I was very lucky that back in the days when the Gainesville Sun was downtown.
I remember it well.
Yeah, that I... Norm Frozier and Jack Harston and Al Hall. We were just at John Rosenrod's funeral. A lot of not those people, but because they're all passed away, but people who knew them, and we talked a lot about them. But Al Hall especially said, look, you can work here and you can do all this work. I mean, it's not going to be easy and you're not going to get paid much, but this will be great training. And it was. I used to come in at 3:30 in the morning. It was a PM paper. Come in at 3:30 in the morning by myself, lay out the entire paper, supervise the paste up and everything, and then everybody else would come in about 8 o'clock and the paper would be out, ready to go. And man, one time I flopped a picture, which means you wrote on the back flop because the guy was facing away from the story instead of towards it. We were always taught the action's got to be going towards the story you want them to read. So I flopped it, but it was a baseball player. So it said Srebrew across the front of it instead of Brewers. So they go, you might want to change that. That's not a good idea. But no, so it was a great learning experience, and then I learned a lot down at Fort Lauderdale for a year, and that was a lot of fun too.
You mentioned Al Hall. Abby Knight has worked for me since 1979.
Yeah, I just saw her at the at John Rosenrod's funeral. Yeah,
and she still works at Meldon Law.
Well, good.
And she tries to retire, but I won't let her.
Well, she's a great person. I knew her very well back in the old days. We used to go to a lot of lunches over at the Sovereign back in the old days, in the 80s or late 80s.
Were you a member of the bar?
That's where I ate. I know that. I don't know if I was ever formally accepted as a bar member, but we ate all the lunches.
And the bar had the brass plaques there, right? Yeah. And I considered it one of the highest honors I ever achieved is when my name went up on the brass plaque at the Sovereign.
Yeah, I don't think mine ever went up there.
Are you sure?
Yeah, well, we were... Yeah, it was, I don't know, maybe
I'm going to ask Lupe Mosier because I see her around now.
What was kind of funny about that, we were just talking about John Rosenrod's funeral, is afterwards a bunch of us went out and had dinner and drank a toast to him. And then as I went to the bathroom, I realized this is the Sovereign. This is where the old Sovereign was. This like one little area. And I'm like, and John would always, Mike Sanford and all those guys, we'd go to eat up there all the time. It was either there or the old CJ's over there where, I don't even know what's there anymore, but over off Archer.
Creekside.
No, the other one.
Oh, the other one.
Yeah,
Okay.
when I first got here, the CJ's was over there in like a strip mall. And God, the chicken wings were unbelievable. I loved them. But then it moved to the Creekside, yeah.
So anyhow, we're reminiscing. The Gainesville Sun is where Pat really, cut his teeth and got spent most of his life. And the Gainesville Sun was downtown, and these Sovereign restaurant we were talking about was there. So after work, people would come over.
Yep.
And what was the work day like at the old Gainesville Sun?
Well, yeah. If you were you had to get in early because the paper. I think the deadline might have been 6:30 or had to be done, and that was when it was a PM paper. And of course, PM papers totally have gone. I mean, most print is gone, but PM papers totally went away. There were only a few left. But I worked for the Gainesville Sun and the Jacksonville Journal, both PM papers, and I used to love to work for them.
So you'd show up in the morning, figure out what the stories were, write them, they'd print it, and then they'd have it delivered the evening newspaper.
Right. Yeah, so you'd get it about, I think, usually 2 or 3 o'clock. And back then, people had time to read. And back then, there was no internet. And people liked to get the paper and read it in the afternoon over with a martini. And, and again, you had people like Jack, who were legendary columnists. Joe Halberstein before him.
How do those guys rank? How do the Gainesville sports writers rank nationally as far as your experience?
Well, I'd be number one, and then we go to number 2. No, we won a lot of awards. We did really good stuff, and the shame of it is, newspapers. We all know what's going on there, but we actually had a spotlight team. We had 3 writers and an editor who only went after one story at a time, like the movie Spotlight, and like they have at the Boston Globe. And in fact, when Norm Sloan thing happened, that was our guys going to work on it. And that's all they worried about. They didn't even have to deal with the game because we had another writer who would cover that. And you think about how big a deal for a little paper like that to have their own spotlight team. And I don't think they have 3 writers and an editor over there total now. And that's a real shame. It's nothing against anybody over there, nothing against the Gainesville Sun. I left voluntarily, and I hated to leave because I loved being a newspaper guy, but the world changed. Everything changed, and it became about clicks and what you, not about what you were trying to do, and then you put the paper to bed and you couldn't wait till people saw it the next day. That was always a thrill for me was, you'd work so hard on putting out a paper, and then you'd get the physical copy. I remember going back and, the press would be running. You'd reach in and grab a paper, and make sure there were no typos or nobody had dropped any F-bombs and cut lines by accident. It was a great feeling about that. But of course, that's done now.
My son, Kerry, was born in 1978, and he was a really good reader early on. And we got the Gainesville Sun every day, and one of his favorite things, he loves sports, and he'd go to the sports section and he would study it. I'm like when he was 5 or 6 or 7 years old, once in a while, if he would actually find an error.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And
we made errors. There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
And it wasn't in the baseball box score.
No.
It was, but anyhow, the Gainesville Sun was a very, very important piece of our history here in Gainesville. Now, the transition that took place, I'd like to talk about what was your reaction when the newspaper, for those of you that don't know, the subscription rates for newspapers went downhill. A few national newspapers, maybe the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post were already way ahead as far as transitioning to a digital format. However, they already had national presence, so it was a different deal for them.
Heck, they had national presence in our building because there was a whole wing that was just New York Times, and that's all they did was put out stories, digitally for the New York Times and edit them, and they had a staff of I want to say 15 people over there doing that.
Oh, it's because
we were not connected with them at all, but the New York Times owned us for a long time, and that was I like to call them the Camelot days.
Because you had the big dogs there,
and they cared about all the papers they had in the state. They had a lot of them. Lakeland, Sarasota, were I think Daytona was eventually, but they cared about local papers. But then they decided, we see where this is going. Sold everybody off, so we went to Gatehouse, and then trying to remember who was between Gatehouse and Gannett. Gannett owns it now, and Gannett owns most papers now.
So, what was your personal journey from having been a nationally celebrated sports writer for the Gainesville Sun to where you're at today? Let's talk a little bit about that, because I think our listeners would like to hear how the internet and digital has changed the world.
Well, right now I'm at Meldon and Friends. So but no, that's the good thing for me was that I do think the Gainesville Sun and most papers were slow to react and slow to kind of get ahead of the game on the digital part. But I was already doing a lot of that. I was already doing a podcast for many years. I did my own TV show for a while, back in it would have been the 2012s. We would do a TV show it was one camera, and the person, it was Trish Coyne. I remember very well. She's still a good friend of mine. She would do the video, and I would bring a guest in, and we'd do it kind of like we do now, But so we were doing that a long time ago, and I think that allowed so that when I decided to retire, and I didn't want to quit writing. I still wanted to keep writing. I just didn't want to do it on the terms that I was kind of being laid out for me. And a lot of stuff that you were going to have to do extra, and I was good. I was good to go ahead and get out when I could, and so I did, and picked it right back up. I just said, look, let's think of the things I can do. I know I can do podcasts really well, so talk to Freddie. Next thing you know, I'm doing my podcast. I think we're at 285 podcasts we've done now. So I was already doing radio, easy pickup there. I just contacted a few people, said, hey, I can write this. I know WRUF. I went to them. I go, hey, I don't want to quit writing the back nine. I like writing the back nine. It's a fun column to write. I'll write it for you guys. And we came up with a deal that I could do that. So I'm staying really busy.
Do you still have the music in the back nine?
Still have the three songs at the end, and they're always songs that I know a lot of people will never listen to, but I'm still going to put them out there because they're usually bands you haven't really heard that much about, but I'm telling you they're good.
Okay.
Trust me, they're good.
So I was, we were talking about Freddie. Freddie Wiebe helps both Pat and I as far as developing what we do. And I would, big shout out to Freddie because he is instrumental in really taking talent and figuring out how to get it out into the public in a very successful way. And I want to congratulate you. I remember when you were making the transition, and it must have been a little bit scary because here you had, for 35 years, you were going, you had a place to go and that was it. And, they valued you highly and you were, the big dog there.
Well, yeah. And it wasn't scary though, because I knew how to do it, and I knew to have somebody like Freddie involved in it too was going to help. and I was getting 6.5 months salary. So it wasn't like I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do if I can't make any of this work. Now, I will say this, as it went along, I got a little frustrated with it only because I felt like it was harder than I thought it was going to be to keep it going, and then I kind of got into a good mode, and certainly with Zach working, we've gotten into a very comfortable level where we know what we're doing, and that's the good part. As long as you have people around you, it's the same way with the radio show. With working with Jeff Cardozo, of course, one of the great guys in the world. That's not work. You kidding me? I go there for 2 hours and we just shoot the bull, and it's great.
And you know what's pretty cool, Pat, is we're here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Pat and I were over at the Freddie Weeby's Make It Happen office before they opened this, and then they opened up the Gridiron Grill, and this has really become the clubhouse here for everything in the Gator world. Let's talk a little bit about that and what the role is of this unique museum and restaurant that we're in as far as recruiting and everything else.
Yeah, it's funny because my oldest daughter lives in Los Angeles, and she was in town a couple of years ago, might have been a year and a half ago. And I said, hey, we need to go out to Spurrier's. I said, we may eat, we may do something, we may have a drink, but I just want you to see it. And I took her out here, and she goes, Dad, I live in L.A., and there's nothing like this out there. I mean, she was blown away by how good it is. And Freddie, obviously, every attention to detail. And I went through it with him. I mean, not physically, but I would hear about different things and things that they had to change, and it got delayed a little bit because of one of the tiles thing was screwed up. But attention to detail, and he had a good plan. And it does affect recruiting. I always tell people there's 3 big buildings in Gainesville, Florida right now. The stadium, the new Heavener complex, and Spurrier's. And this is where they bring everybody. All the parents come here, and they have a great time.
Freddie was telling me during June we had a big boost as far as our recruiting class for 2024. And it was interesting, the dynamics, because when the recruits come, they come with their parents and grandparents often, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
And those folks know who Steve Spurrier is.
Yes. Exactly.
the kids that are 17, 18, 19 years old, they've heard Steve Spurrier.
And they see that the field's named after him. But you're right. I mean, the parents do know that. And that's, again, he does stop by a lot to say hello to everybody, make sure they see him. But look, Florida's not going to get players based on, I mean, we're at the point now where I think it's Ohio State where a player asks for $5,000 to visit. All right, so this is what it's becoming, where you're going to have to start paying guys just to show up and eat free food, and then not come to your school
and have their families join them if they like.
It's just nutty. And meanwhile, in the state of Missouri, if you go to a state school, you can collect NIL money when you're in high school, but you can't go anywhere else out of the state. There's only one real big time college there, and that's obviously is Missouri. But everybody's got different rules, and everybody's still abusing the different rules. Even the rules that they have for NIL that are NCAA rules, even rules that are state jurisdiction, they abuse those too. They don't care. NCAA's gumming its food right now. They have no chance to anything.
Would you agree the NCAA was late to the table as far as
if they had jumped on this thing early, they could have had some transparency, one set of rules for everybody. We're going to have to be on you about this and enforce it, but that's what your job is. Yeah. I mean, I know that a lot of people don't get about the NCAA is it runs every championship except one, and that's football. It's the only championship they don't run. But look, they make a lot of money off the basketball one, but they aren't making any money off lacrosse, the championships, or the volleyball championships. Well, maybe this year they might make if they the way it's going. But the point is, they have to run all these things, and it's still part of what the NCAA is. I mean, they're running all this stuff, and they're having to rule on all this other stuff, and it's not a job I would want.
Very complex. I mean, years ago, when I'd be downtown, and on a Friday or Saturday night, you'd see the players downtown, particularly if it was not football season. And sometimes even if it was football season,
they hit it pretty hard. Yeah.
Anyhow, the fact is that I always felt like there was something unfair about a kid who was working his butt off, playing football or basketball or whatever the sport was, bringing in revenue to University of Florida. However, they couldn't go to Dragonfly Restaurant with their friends because they couldn't afford $50 or whatever the cost was, and there was a system back in the 1980s where players would want to get cash, and I'm sure it wasn't any different any other big time university. That the players would go, I need spending money, and the NCAA, they had their heads in the sand, and they weren't going to deal with it. But if you have players generating most of the budget, I mean, literally all of the budget for the University of Florida is generated by football and maybe 5% by basketball.
Right.
Okay, that's it. None of the other, including baseball, which is an incredible product, a fabulous stadium, and if you guys haven't been there, you need to go there. So football was king and has been and will continue to be. However, there was something that didn't seem right to me about these kids they couldn't take a job and go make whatever they would get paid at a job because they were really working hard. They had to keep up their studies. They had to practice.
Right.
I've always felt like there should have been something proactively done.
Well, and they finally did the cost of attendance, but that was just a drop in the bucket. You're going to give a kid $5,000 a year with this cost of attendance, but meanwhile his coach just left for what he thought was a better job, and he's going to get $8 million a year. But wait a minute, I'm the one who scored all the touchdowns, But so the cost of attendance, I think they thought was going to be the answer. We're not going to pay players, but we're going to give them this money to appease them. And the players went, I don't think so.
No.
That's not going to work for us. But between that and the transfer portal, and the transfer portal exists only because coaches were such a-holes about it, about not letting guys transfer.
Oh, right.
For a while it was you didn't want them transferring within the division. Then you didn't want them transferring within the conference. You didn't want them transferring anywhere. Because we may play them down the road 4 years.
Right. And meanwhile, the kids had reasons why they wanted to transfer.
Exactly.
Maybe they were third string here at Florida, and they thought if I transfer, I'll go,
Well, and the sad thing is what it's become is, like every team is put together now, basically. Some of them to the extreme, like Colorado, and there's some other schools like that have done it totally through the portal, And it's just the way the world is now. But again, Coach Spur and I were just talking about this earlier today, and how I look at all these games and they're packed. People say, I'm not going to any more games, NIL and transfer portal, I don't want to go to any games. Then you look at the stadiums and they're full of people. And I go, well, somebody's paying to go to these games. I don't know who they are.
I love listening to your show from 4 to 6 every day on the ESPN station, WRUF 850, and I think there's an FM. Anyhow, Pat does the show with Jeff Cardozo, and the callers are so brutal, right? They
can be rough. I try not to let them get under my skin, but it is. Look, that's what fan is short for fanatic. I mean, these are fanatics, and they're Gator fans who are way off so far that they're wrong. I mean, they just are too much. And again, we heard a little bit of that Saturday. There was a little booing, I think, when they ran a 3rd and 23 running play. But who is that helping?
Right.
That's not helping the convince recruits, oh, I need to come here because they boo because they're waiting for me. That doesn't work that way. But, you know.
So I've had the privilege of going to visit with Coach Napier at the Hefner football complex. And to me, it's like night and day over anything that the Gators have ever had before. What are your thoughts on that?
I got lost for some went there. I go,
huge.
Where am I supposed to be going again? There was no guide. I didn't have a Disney World guide, but it's pretty impressive. But, you know, that's the thing. Everybody's got one now, just like it.
For those of you that don't know, I was talking with Scott Strickland, our athletic director, just after he had hired Napier, and I said, how was the negotiation? I'm a lawyer. I'm always interested in negotiation. He said, we had no negotiation over his salary. The only negotiation was how much money were we going to allocate for assistants and people that were going to work at Hefner. That was the whole deal, because he knew that if he didn't have the budget, that he wouldn't be competitive.
Well, and that's the thing is, it's not like any of these people that were brought in were just brought in because they were for nepotism rules or something like. They were brought in with a specific purpose in mind. Everybody that they've hired. Now, maybe one of those purposes should be not to make sure that you have 11 guys on the field at all times. They have not been able to do that so far.
Or let's not have 14 penalties in one game.
Or let's not have guys with the same number on the field at the same time. I mean, so, and look, when you hire that many analysts or whatever they're called over there, and you have errors of, situational errors where you screw up because you didn't get it coached right, that's people are going to come back and jump on you about it. Wait a minute, we got 60 guys who are wearing those polo shirts in the team picture. Why wasn't anybody paying attention to anything? So, but I think Billy Napier, to be honest with you, is still kind of finding his way around this job, because every job is not the same. You know that.
Louisiana was not the same as Florida.
And Georgia's not the same as Florida, and Auburn's not the same as Florida, and Auburn's not the same as Alabama. They're all, every job is different, and you've got to be able to figure it out. And sometimes it takes a while to do that.
I'll tell you, I feel like Napier is doing a very good job. Katie Turner, I think, is helping with recruiting, and I listened to her talk about how she systematically goes about recruiting players, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, she's something, and they definitely have everything very scientifically down to the what you'll get on NIL if you are all SEC. It's like a general manager has his list. Everybody got trucks at Utah, every one of their players, all 85 scholarship guys, but that's here at Florida, that's the way they're doing it. And so they just got to get better players in here. And again, they got to stack recruiting classes. And it's hard, man, when you're dealing with the NIL and you're dealing with portal and you're dealing with guys trying to recruit them to not leave.
Oh, right. You get a player here, and then you keep recruiting them for 3 years so that they won't go to the transfer portal.
Well, that's what cracks me up is when a player says, I'm coming home, and he's going to come to this school. And I'm like, no, this is where you're starting, okay? You're not coming home until you stay here 4 years. And then we'll say you came home. But no, you're going there to start your career, and then we'll see where it takes you from there.
Well, Pat, I could go on for hours with you. We're very honored to have you as our guest, and I want to say that in spite of all of the insanity that's going on in football in particular, college football in particular, and other sports as well, it still has the amazing fan excitement, and I haven't seen that diminish.
No, I mean, you look at, Florida's had a couple sellouts already this year. I think they've had 5 under Napier. So fans want to be at the games, and they want, a lot of people take the approach of, well, I got a nice TV, I got 2 TVs, I don't have to miss anything, which is kind of the approach I take a lot of the time. But people are still going out there. They're still going to games, and they're still enjoying them.
Well, earlier today I was out at Wind FM, the oldies station, and I was promoting the Tom Petty Festival, and I was talking about live music and how, you can listen, in the comfort of your home or car and have great music and all that, but there's still something important about a live event.
Absolutely.
And the same thing applies to, even more so, I think, with football. I mean, we have our Gator family, and we want to tailgate before and meet people. We see people only in the fall at our tailgate, right?
It's like the first game of the year is like a reunion. Everybody gets together. Hey, I haven't seen you since last football season. But
yeah, so let's support the Gators. Let's get out and actually attend the games, because the announced attendance is not the number of fans in the stadium. You know that, right?
No, it's a lot of it's TV people. Yeah, they count. Media boys count.
Well, no, but they
count the media boys.
I know they count it, but they also count seats sold with, even if the people don't show up. Yeah. So, after Tennessee, okay, what was the team we played? It
Charlotte.
Was
Charlotte.
Yeah. They had more fans at Charlotte than any game except Tennessee for a long time, right? And so, and then we lose to Kentucky, and the Vandy game, there was at least 12 to 15,000 empty seats. So I think that
I think the rain that had a little bit to do with that too. But they still made a lot of noise.
It was good.
You want the home field advantage.
You want the home field advantage is absolutely true. And at Meldon Law, we give you the home field advantage. We're local, Gainesville, Ocala, Lake City. So if you have a need, give us a call. Thank you very much, Pat Dooley, for joining us on Meldon Law and Friends, and I will see you later.
See you. I thought we were just